Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. No matter what brand your lawnmower is, this is the one for you if it just won't start after sitting for the winter. Now, this little Cub Cadet has been sitting for over a year, according to the people I bought it from, and the yard's only about that big, so I kind of believe it. So they told me they put new gas in it, and that didn't help, which tells me that we've either got a clog in the fuel system or a carburetor issue. More than likely, it's going to be a carb issue, which is super common after they sit for a while. So let's get started. As always, the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and drain the gas out and get a good look at it and see how we feel about it. If it's got bad gas, then there's no reason to go any farther. So we'll go. Okay, looking at the gas in this one, it's got a touch of a yellow tint. It's not new, but it's not that bad. So it's not a gas problem. So now we're going to move on to the carburetor. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the carburetor off of this guy, see what she looks like. Now, draining the gas first makes life a little easy for you, just because you won't have gas all over the floor that way. Let's pull this off carefully. Loosen up the PCV line. And this is crankcase ventilation into your air and incoming air. So you want that. Okay, and this is our choke mechanism. And take a lot of pictures because this won't be obvious later. Also doesn't want to get out of the way easily. Okay, this is a one piece, so we're just going to ease it off to the side. Now I'll put a magnet here for our bolts. And this is kind of nice because you can keep track of your bolts and make sure that you don't forget anything along the way. Now, just like the Honda, let me switch sides. Now, just like the Honda or a Predator or almost any modern carb, you see if you pull it out a little bit and then floor it, this will pop right off. And this, well, we'll get to that. We'll just Ouija it off at the end. We'll pull our governor. Come on, buddy. Pull our governor spring off. There we go. Okay, now we'll take the fuel line off. And we're still going to get a little fuel in the line. So we're going to make a little bit of a mess. We'll catch as much as we can in the cup. Now, if you're doing this to yours, this is a great time to replace the gas line. I replace the gas line just about every time on these. Because it costs about $2 and it might save you aggravation in the future. There we go. She's about half off. Let's pinch the line down. That'll minimize our leaks. And take it the rest of the way off. There you go, that's not too bad. Okay, to remove this carburetor, it's a little bit different than most of them. On the Kohler, what we're going to do is we're going to put a nut on. We're going to pull these two studs off. We're going to do it like so. We're going to take the two nuts that we got off the engine. Now we're going to tighten them up a little bit. There we go. And use that to pull the stud. I don't know if you saw it, but it broke loose on the first one. Now after that, it should come right off. There's one. Now we'll take our nuts back off. You usually don't have to go too terribly tight. And there we go. Now we can easily unhook the linkage. So let's take it over to the bench and clean her up real quick. Okay, if you've been keeping track, the only thing we've used so far is the pliers and the 10mm. And we're going to use a flathead screwdriver in just a second here to get inside to the jets. Yep, and it looks pretty rough in there. Excuse me. There we go. Those are in there pretty tight. And be careful not to strip the flathead on the top of the jet, or you're going to end up having to buy a carburetor. Okay, we got it nice and loose, but it's pretty crowded in there. So now what we're going to do is go inside the carburetor and find the jet. Had to grab the flashlight for this one. If you can see inside there, the jet looks completely polluted with something. That's our problem right there. So we're going to take our screwdriver and push it down. And that pushed down pretty easy. And usually that'll push it out. This one's got more activity than normal. See the black things coming out of the carburetor? That's not normal. There you go, and it came out to the point where we can grab it. Let's get the emulsion tube out. And this is what we were touching. This is what's sticking out of the top of the carburetor. So this one's dirtier than average. So even though you don't normally have to do this, I'm going to run this one through the cleaner and give her a good bath, and she'll be good to go. So we'll be back shortly. So if you look down into this, you can see the grease bubbling off of it. Ultrasonic cleaner can be your friend. In the ultrasonic, we're using 20% pine sol and 80% tap water. And it doesn't discolor the parts and does a really good job cleaning, and it has a great side effect. It makes the garage smell good. Now everything's been through the ultrasonic and it looks really good. It looks almost new. So now we're going to run a wire through the emulsifier and the jet. I'm going to take a look at the little holes on the side. The holes on the side are hard to get to, but they are important. The little holes on the side of the emulsifier let air in and do a premix of the gas and the air. So if the holes are clogged, you'll run really rich, and it'll be a complete mystery. That's one of the reasons you'll run into some that just tend to have a harmonic where the motor goes up, motor goes down. It's because the little holes on the emulsifier tube are clogged. Well, that's one of the reasons. A really low idle would do it too. Okay, jet's pretty clogged up. There we go, now we're through. Now notice I'm holding it to one side so that the wire has got a little tension, so it rubs around the outside of this. And it looks good, it looks good. So now we're nice and clean, so let's drop this back in, put it all back together, and she should start first pull. Okay, that's super tight. So now, let's get the needle and seat together. Where'd the little pin go? There it is. Always keep your bench nice and clean when you're doing this, because something like that, if I had a lot of things sitting up here that weren't related to this job, a little pin rolling away could have turned this into an extra 15 minutes just searching for it. So now we're going to make sure that our little drain's where we want it. Bolt the ball back on. Whoops. Bolt the ball back on, and we're ready to go. We'll go put her on and see what we got. Okay, next thing we're going to do is pull the fuel line off. And that's usually pretty easy peasy at this point. Let's rotate this around. You can see where it's swollen here. Now when I can, I pull it off in one piece. And the reason for that is it makes it easy to measure for the new one. There we go. And I can see this one's distorted out of its normal shape pretty badly. So it definitely wants replaced. Now we're going to gently rotate it. We're not going to pull on it yet. We just want to break it loose from the tank. Because with a plastic tank, you don't want to accidentally break this nipple off. And we're going to use this just because it'll slot in here. You don't want to cut down on it or anything. You don't want to chomp on it. Now, if that's not working, let's try this. Let's try this again. And there you have it. And we have a new gas line. Okay, I put just a touch of oil on it so it'll go on easy. You should be able to twist and push, and it should go right on. Okay, with that all done, let's get the carburetor together. So the first thing we'll do is the choke, and then the fuel line. You always want to go back together in the opposite of the way you took it apart. That just saves you all sorts of grief and aggravation. Okay, let's get our studs back in place. I had to switch you back over because I'm very right-handed. And you can use the impression on the gasket to figure out which way the gasket originally went. I'll move this back up into place. There we go. We'll tighten the first stud in. You see, the first time we feel the first tiny little bit of pressure, we stop. Okay, let's go ahead and pull the double nut off. And do the second the same way. See, now I didn't put the nuts too terribly tight together, because you really don't have to. You just want to keep going until it seats. You're not setting any records, and it's not impressing anybody. Okay, with that done, we're going to go ahead and get our throttle linkage back in place. And again, we're going to hold it wide open. And we'll use our little grabby tool and pull it back. I tell you, my eyes are getting old. There we go. And that's back in place. I'll make sure she's bent up all the way. Looks good, looks good. Put our little choke retainer back on very carefully. And we'll come over to the side and I'll show you how that works in just a second here. I'll try to be as smooth as I can. I'm freehanding the camera. But if you look, this is your choke lever here. You can see as this comes forward and backwards, that touches and it'll pull the choke. That's how choke works on this one. Okay, the only thing we've got left is to get the airbox on. And again, we're going in the reverse of the order that we took it apart. Even something simple like this would be exceptionally difficult once it's like that. Slowly. Okay, looks good. Looks good. Looks good. Okay, the air filter looks okay. I'll probably throw one in before I sell it, but it's good enough to run it. Hey, what do you think, guys? Is this going to be our first pull mower? The gas that was in it was so good, I actually put it in with my regular gas. I don't get that very often. With the price of gas nowadays, I hate to waste it, though. Okay, we're going to let it sit here for 30 seconds and give her a start. But I'm pretty impatient, so let's try it right now. Okay, I turned off the mute, the sound deadening, so you can hear it. She sounds really good. Touch of smoke, touch of gas, but I'm not really surprised because they probably pulled it to death when it wouldn't start. Okay, with all that done, now we'll check the oil, see where that's at. It's easier stick to read than most are. And the oil is about 2 checkerboards up from the bottom, and it actually looks pretty good. So this mower really did just sit. This is one of those cases where everything they said looks like it was true. It just sat and sat and sat, and you can see the corrosion on top of the emulsifier tube, which is the jet going into the carburetor. And we cleaned up the carb, put new gas in it, put a new fuel line on it. She sounds like a champ. So all you new people out there, if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. It's free, and it's what we work for. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.